Hey guys, Andreas here, the Swedish content creator for Hi-Fi Klubben. I'm joined today by my beautiful colleague Johannes from Norway. We're down here in beautiful Worthing, England, to visit Bowers & Wilkins at their factory. We'll be getting a guided tour from Andy.
The man.
What is his last name?
Kerr.
Today we'll be getting a guided tour from Andy Kerr from Bowers & Wilkins. He'll be telling us all about their speaker manufacturing and showing off their beautiful factory. Come along. How are you doing, Andy?
Very good. Welcome to Bowers & Wilkins.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to go through the tour now, and we've got a whole load of things to see. It's a very substantial site, plenty of things to take in, go through, but I'm sure you'll enjoy the experience. Let's go.
Thank you. Let's go.
So, this is the Bowers & Wilkins factory. This is the home of the 800 series, as you can see.
What parts of the speakers are constructed here? Everything or just parts?
As much as we possibly can, yeah. I mean, we try and take as much control of the process as we can. We're literally beginning with sheet wood and finishing with completed painted speakers.
Perfect. Shall we get started with the woodworking section?
Let's go for it.
Manufacturing the 800 series, part 1, woodworking. The first step when making any 800 series loudspeaker is to create their iconic wrapped cabinets. To do this, the workers stack layers of thin beechwood and glue sheets to create their own plywood from scratch.
This is the smallest model. This is an 805, and as you can see right here, we have a total of 12 layers of wood, and this creates something that's very strong indeed.
Yeah. I don't think I could break this if I wanted to.
No, I think if you jumped up and down on it, you'd still struggle, right? Yeah. If you move up to a larger loudspeaker, this is an 801, this is 18 layers of wood.
Yeah.
The stack of wood is loaded into these huge custom-built machines that both press and heat the wood to force it into shape and activate the glue.
Don't touch, because that might be hot.
Yeah, it was.
Right here you can see cabinet forms lined up in position and cooling. So if you go from the right, which is the closest to the machine, to the left, which is the furthest away from the machine, they get progressively warmer because each one is closer to having been taken straight off the press. So from here, it'll go on to the machine that you can see behind you.
This is a 5-axis CNC robot that's fully programmed to machine away any excess wood, cut out the holes for the drive units, as well as create grooves that will fit several upcoming parts like the matrix bracing.
So we're cutting to what we call a tolerance of plus or minus 0.2 of a millimeter.
Yeah,
Of a millimeter.
that's tiny.
That's tiny, right? But that's what allows us to make sure it fits correctly. So from there, one of the operators will take that part out and they'll bring it across here to the bench and they'll measure it precisely to the drawing. So the process here is about making sure that essentially the robot's done its job. Now it's labor intensive and it takes a skilled person to do it, but it's time that's well spent because if you do it right now, you won't encounter any issues later on. We don't believe in good enough. Good enough isn't good enough. Do it better.
While the cabinet is being pressed and machined, another CNC robot is creating the internal matrix bracing, turning wood like this into this. These bracing parts finally meet the cabinet in the spreader.
This is called a spreader. And as you can see, there are 4 of them. So there are 4 805 build stations. So what the guys do is take that shape and put it on its back in here. Then these slide over the top and grab hold of the back of the loudspeaker, and then there's a handle just here. They wind it, and it gently opens the speaker up, just a little bit. And then from there, they can put the matrix assembly inside, the top and the bottom of the loudspeaker, and they can glue everything in position.
Part 2. Finishing. Now that the speakers have their internal bracing as well as the tops and bottoms fitted, they're almost ready to be painted. But they need a good sanding first to ensure a smooth and even finish.
If you've ever sanded a wooden floor,
I have.
you know it's a horrendous experience.
It is.
It takes a long time, and your arms afterwards, you feel like Popeye, right?
Yep.
So what we invested in 2015 is 3 of these. So these are sanding robots. And of course, it's programmable. So you can tell it, I'm working on an 805, or I'm working on an 801, and it understands the difference. Every single loudspeaker, regardless of the finish that you eventually choose, will be sanded here at least 1 time.
Okay.
But if you were to choose this finish, which I know is your favorite.
Yeah, it is.
If you were to choose this finish, it's only going to be sanded 1 time because that's all it needs. In fact, what we want is, as you put your hand on it, you can feel It still has a slight degree of like the openness of the wood.
Yeah, it'd be a shame to sand this down further.
Correct. Now this particular loudspeaker is an 801, so you'll notice it doesn't have the wood veneer at the bottom. This is the only model that doesn't have that. The reason for this is the 801 has an aluminium plate that goes in here. The only way to get the good fit is to not have the wood veneer, just in case you were wondering.
Cool.
After sanding, the speakers are spray painted or lacquered in batches, sorted by color. And in case you're wondering, these speakers are already black because they're on their way to their second coat. One by one, they queue up to enter the painting chamber where, you guessed it, another robot applies the paint, or lacquer.
By the way, does the robot look familiar?
Yeah.
It's the same type of robot as you have in the movie Iron Man. That's Dummy.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe it's Dummy's British cousin,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So the painting process itself, as you can see, if you time this is pretty quick, right?
Yeah, yeah.
This is an 804, and he's going to get through that whole job really quite rapidly.
Yeah, how long would you say that it takes on average?
A minute and a half maximum,
Oh, wow,
depending
yeah.
on the model. So once it's finished there, it's going to go through that aperture and turn left.
Yeah.
In there, it's going to go into an oven, what we call a stoving oven. And it's going to be baked at 60 degrees Celsius for about 45 minutes. And as it goes through the oven, it's going to slowly turn so that it's baked evenly on all sides. Now, if you're talking about a black loudspeaker like that one, it's going to have a total of 9 coats.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you'll have this done several times, right?
For the walnut, what would the process be for those?
It's very similar, but much, much quicker. So the walnut has just 2 coats of lacquer. Very, very quick.
Oh, yeah.
The last part of the finishing process is to polish the cabinets. This is an 801 signature before any polishing.
It's shiny, but it's not like sparkling shiny.
Yeah.
And then after a round in the polishing machine.
This one is shining more than my bald head.
And finally, after some additional hand polishing.
This one's getting to mirror territory.
You got it.
Oh, yeah, this is marvelous.
Very shiny.
Yeah, spectacular, right? I swear sometimes if you look at them, you can see faces. Look.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You
Looks
can
like
see-
some Van Gogh.
Yeah, little faces. Here you go. There's a ghost right there. Look at the ghost. See his face? Yeah.
Sort of looks like E.T. from this side as
Yeah.
well.
Part 3. Drive units.
This half of the factory that you've just been in, just about cabinets. So flat sheet wood behind you, finished painted cabinets over here. That's just this section. The next stage when we go through here is to take all of that and start turning it into a loudspeaker.
What are you waiting for? Come on, us.
Let's start by looking at perhaps the most defining feature of the 800 series, the diamond tweeter.
So this is genuine diamond.
Oh, wow.
It's not just a name. It is synthetic in the sense that it's man-made, but in terms of chemistry and behavior, it's diamond. So
Yeah.
they don't just call it that to
Yeah.
sound cool.
No, it is actually diamond.
It is indeed. Super thin, so it's 88 milligrams in weight. It's 40 micron, which is hardly any thickness at all. Now, we don't make that on site for the obvious reason that the process involved, a process called chemical vapor deposition, is very dangerous, very expensive, requires super high pressures, super high temperatures. This dome gets into distress at 72 kilohertz.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's like, what, 3.5 times the
3.5
maximum of human hearing?
And I want to be really clear, just in case anybody misunderstands me. We are not saying you hear something at that point.
Yeah.
What we're saying in the range where you can hear, this dome is super unstressed.
The fragile and expensive diamond dome is carefully glued to its voice coil, fitted with a rubber suspension, given a mounting plate, and an aluminium housing. This entire process is done by hand by highly precise and skilled workers, and of course every tweeter is tested to ensure it's within specifications. Looks like a pass. The tweeter's housing is milled out of these solid pieces of aluminium and will be mounted using a special rubber decoupling system on top of the mid-range later on.
Boop. We're going down in frequencies and we're going down the stairs.
You've been working on that one. Drive unit assembly. So this line is taking all of the cones, whether it's mid-range or, as you can see today, base, and putting them together. So we have the chassis, the baskets lined up, we have the magnet, the motor system ready to go. The cones, we manufacture them here. Unfortunately, that's one thing I can't show you because it's a secret process.
Got it.
But nonetheless, we can still do that here too. and it all comes together on this line. So moving around, it's a fairly straightforward process. Taking the chassis, adding in the suspension system, adding in the coil, and going forward to make sure, again, from the point of view of test and measurement.
This is a neodymium magnet used in the base drivers of an 801. It might not look too intimidating, but these things are strong.
Have a try at pulling it off.
Oh Lord, yeah. Yeah, no chance.
Right.
I'm scared. Oh yeah, I feel it from here.
Yeah.
Bonk.
All right, let's take a quick look at where they make the crossovers.
This strange piece of decor right here, what are we looking at?
So the guys working over here are working on our crossover assembly. So they're putting together all of the elements that create the filters, the electronic filters that deal with how the loudspeaker behaves. This is an 805 signature. So this is a copyboard, a reference. You can see, in fact, here it's been signed off and dated when it was engineered. Our chief acoustic engineer signed it, and you can see the date that he signed it off. So this will stay here as a reference point for the guys when they're working. The crossovers are, relatively speaking, quite simple. I mean, you can see right here, this is like 4 components.
Yeah.
This is a pretty basic crossover layout. 4 high-quality components, but nonetheless 4 components. So the shorter it is and the cleaner it is, the better it behaves. Yeah? When you move to an 801, as you can see, a little bit more complex. So this top board is for the high frequency and the mid feed, and this lower board is for the low frequency feed. But again, still really high quality components. Now what the guys will do, and hopefully you can see here, is they lay everything else out so it looks super professional, right? So it's all done by hand, but they position all of the components in a nice, neat orientation. Now you as a customer, you're never going to see that, right? But if we do professional photography or things like we're doing now, showing people what's going on, we want to be able to show it that it looks good.
Yeah.
Part 4, final assembly.
So, now we begin the process of putting them together. So as you can see, we have a whole series of walnut going through at the moment. First step, you fit the top plate. The top plate's fitted here to make sure that it's in the correct position. They use a setting jig just to position it in correct place.
And what material is used for this?
This is aluminium.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a real good point that we're here right now. Let's have a look inside. You can see here we have the aluminium plate. We have vertical sections of aluminium. We have horizontal sections of aluminium. We also have a 10mm thick steel plate joining the aluminium into the heart of the matrix assembly. So this loudspeaker, when it's complete, will have all this metal inside. It will have an aluminium top, it will have an aluminium bottom, and it will also have an aluminium rear, plus the turbine head, plus the tweeter body.
Yeah.
Around 40% of the loudspeaker is aluminium, all told. So this is a final product assembly line. Now we have 2 of them. This one is responsible for the manufacture of the larger headed models of loudspeakers, so 800s, 802s, and so on, 801s in this particular case. Over there, we make the smaller models, 805 and so on. So it all begins, as you would expect, with just checking the cabinet one more time, making sure everything's good. Then it will come through here on these platforms. The guys can spin it round, and they can put the plinth, the port, into position. And then it moves down here in a right to left motion. So as you go this way, you're essentially picking the component parts that you need, and you're adding them into the story. They could, in theory, take a cabinet from there through to here inside an hour. But all of the different steps that have taken to get here in the first place have added days, if not weeks, to that time, right? So lots of processes, but now we go relatively quickly. This one, as you can see, the plinth is now in position alongside the feet and the spikes. Next phase, you'll see drive units going in.
So we'll go all the way down here.
All the way down here.
This will lift it over.
Yeah, lifted here,
I
2
suppose.
vertical, and then the head assembly is going to go on.
Yeah.
So that's the tweeter body, the turbine head, the mid-range drive unit, and so on. Once that's all tested and validated, it's going to go in here for a test and measurement process. So this is the very first time that you see a complete loudspeaker being tested. We know that it's passed its test from a performance point of view. Only at that point do we fit the model ID plate, because that's a clear indicator that this has passed its test, right?
Yeah. So that's the final stamp of approval.
The final stamp.
Yeah.
So on and then it moves from here to the very bright lights for cleaning and inspection. So it would give a full loving clean here, but now the new thing that we've recently added is the addition of this ultra bright chamber over there, where we can go even further. Torture chamber, all right? Yeah. And obviously the idea behind this is because the lights are so bright, it reveals absolutely everything.
These have passed tests for frequencies, they've passed tests for dust and everything. Is there anything else left to do?
No, that's definitely it now. So from there, it's just packed in the box, it's straight into the warehouse, and it's out to customers. Over to you guys as well.
Yeah, so the rest is up to us and the consumers and their ears.
Absolutely.
Guys, swing by Hyperklubben and give these true pieces of art a listen. They deserve it, and your ears deserve it. Take care. And big thanks to Andy.
So, that's how the iconic 800 series gets made. A big thank you to Bowers & Wilkins and, of course, Andy for welcoming us and showing us around. I hope to see you again in the future. Peace!